Welcome to Motorcycle Hang Time with Chris Klotz, attorney at Stevenson Klotz Injury Lawyers. We invite you to hang with us as we talk about the local motorcycle scene, safety issues, and motorcycle law. And now, here's your fellow motorcycle rider and enthusiast and host.
Hey everybody, welcome to Motorcycle Hang Time. This is Chris Klotz with the Stevenson Klotz Injury Firm here in Pensacola. And today we are honored to have Mike Rhodes with us today as we talk a little bit about motorcycles and some motorcycle issues and motorcycle stories. And Mike, welcome, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Chris. I appreciate you having me on the show here.
Man, so excited to have you here. As you know, what we like to get into is kind of two different things. And the first is, I want to talk about your biking story a little bit. And then I also want to talk about your involvement with the Sertoma Club here and the HogFest that you're involved in and our firm has been involved with for years, and we'll get to that. But man, first tell me, what are you sitting in front of right now, man? What's that bike you got going on?
Actually, Chris, this just got delivered to my house last Saturday.
No
and this
way.
is a brand new Harley Davidson Road Glide ST, which is a sport touring model, and it's
Right.
the Fast Johnny edition is what it is. And so if nobody knows much about Fast Johnny, back in the day when Harley was, really big into racing when they first started out, they had one of their racers, and when he would win, he would take a victory lap with his pet pig, and he'd put it on the motorcycle with him.
So
And
does it
so
come
it'd
with
be
the
up on
pig?
the podium with them and all that kind of stuff. So now on the other side of the bike, there's actually a logo of a pig to kind of commemorate that whole story and all that kind of stuff. That's why they call it the Fast Johnny edition. And obviously the paint job is more to America muscle memorabilia like cars and stuff like that. So
It's got a little bit of a retro look to it, man. That's hot.
I know, I like it. When I first saw it, I was like, I need to figure out a way to get this bike. So
And so is that a 2023 or is that a 24 or?
it is 2023.
Nice, man. Well, and so I can't really see behind your back a little bit. I'm guessing it's set up as a double rider, or is it is that a single? Oh, you got
It's set up
bags
as a
on it.
single rider because with the STs, it's more the sport touring,
Mhm.
and they are meant basically, hey, you're meant to sport and tour alone pretty much. And so my girlfriend's already told me the first thing I got to do is buy foot pegs and a seat for her. So that's on the works pretty soon.
I get it, man. You got to follow your heart and let your heart ride along with you too, man. So I get it.
Exactly.
That's very cool. Well, so I love to ask this question of people when I've got them on the podcast. How did you get into biking first? What was your entree into motorcycles?
I will say this, as a kid, I've always been like a gearhead, kind of into stuff and everything, but my parents never really had a whole lot of money. And so I was lucky to have a go-kart of anything, you know what I mean? But I always wanted to ride dirt bikes and all that kind of stuff. I just never had them. And so when I got to college, my best friend in college, he bought a sport bike. And so he had me take that for a spin a little bit. And ever since then, I kind of started getting hooked a little bit. So about 15 years ago, I bought my first sport bike. And then bought a dirt bike after that, kind of counterintuitive a little bit. And then from there, I went to sport cruisers and now to the Harley Davidson touring models and everything. And, that's kind of how I got into it. How, just always being a gearhead, so to speak, and wanting that desire, then finally being able to work towards getting it.
Have you been more of a gearhead in the motorcycle world or automobiles?
It's a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah.
I just like tinkering with stuff. And in my shop, actually, I have an old 52 Chevy 2-ton truck I'm kind of working on rebuilding as well right now. And so it's a little bit of everything. I just kind of like working with my hands and doing stuff like that.
Yeah. So remind me again, what was the bike that you had right before this new Harley that you've got sitting behind you?
So the bike I had before this was actually another Harley, and it was a Harley Road King. And it's a touring model as well. It just doesn't have a front fairing on it pretty much, and that was the main difference. And I had that bike for about 6.5 years. And then I've just decided, it's time to kind of get more of the fixed fairing and have a more stable ride and just go longer distances.
Yeah. So what I found a lot in the motorcycle community is that there's, people who really like to ride together and do group rides or do, solo rides or ride with their significant other. What's your bag, man? What do you like to do?
I'll be honest with you. I like riding solo, but these days and age, people just don't pay attention to single bikes as much. So I like riding in groups more. So there's a group of my friends and I pretty much every Thursday we get together and meet up and we go for a ride and kind of grab a bite to eat and just kind of do like, a little wild hogs thing once a week. And then I would say once a year we take a big trip. And the big trip is like sometimes we'll just put a map on a dartboard and throw a dart at it and say, hey, where are we going? Oh, we're going to Maine. Well, let's get some lobster and go to Maine this year,
man.
And so I think 2018 we went to Maine just to get lobster. But on the way, it's all about the adventure. So we're gone for like 11, 14 days. So we kind of take back roads. We try to stay off the interstates unless we're kind of running low on time and got to get back home. So we went up to like Niagara Falls, went all along that northern border of the United States, Canada border, and then kind of circled back down to Portland, Maine, and got our lobster, and then started working our way back down. Sometimes we go through the mountains. 2019, we drove from here all the way to Sturgis, and that was like 4,800 miles in 14 days on a motorcycle, and that was a great trip. And part of the reason to get out there was obviously Sturgis. But we went through like Colorado Springs. We took our bikes up to the top of Pikes Peak, which how many people can say they drove to the top of Pikes Peak on a motorcycle? So it's all about the ride and the adventure. And some days we just pull off and say, hey, let's go ride go-karts to this go-kart track and just goof off and act like kids for a while. So
that's really cool. So how many of you guys went up to Maine?
Well, I'd say locally from here at that trip, we probably had about 4 or 5 of us went up to Maine. And then there may be other groups of people who we know, like relatives who live in Pennsylvania. We'd meet up with them somewhere, or somebody maybe in Missouri that would say, okay, well, let's meet up here around Tennessee area and start heading up or something along those lines. And so in that trip, I think total we ended up having about 8 or 9 bikes, but about 4 or 5 locally. When we went out to Sturgis, we had about 4 bikes locally that drove from here out there and back. Did
you go out there for the rally out there at Sturgis?
Yes. Yeah. It's a pretty cool little rally. There's a lot of little towns around there, like Deadwood and Spearfish, and then obviously you have Mount Rushmore and stuff like that. And so the town of Sturgis itself is maybe about 1.5 miles long. There's not much there. There's like 2 or 3 Harley dealerships there, and it's a great little environment. But riding out there through the back hills and all that kind of stuff, that's those little towns. Every little town has their own little biker thing kind of going on, and it's kind of cool to experience all those different events at the different towns as well.
Did your path take you through the Badlands at all?
On the way back, we made sure we went through the Badlands. And it's an interesting area. I mean, it's pretty docile and flat. Not a whole lot out there. You have Badlands National Park, and that's about it.
Yep.
But it's a cool little ride out there. And what was really interesting is obviously that rally happens, I think, late July, early August time frame. And you're so close to the end of the time zone on the central time zone that when we're coming back through South Dakota, it's like 9:30 at night and still daylight out. And you're like, what's going on here? It's like you kind of lose track of time a little bit.
Yeah, it's easier to do that. I've been out to the Badlands, not on my bike, unfortunately, but I've been out there 4 or 5 times, and just never ceases to amaze me that whole environment is so different than what we have around here. It almost feels like you're on a different planet.
Yes, I agree 100%. So I know I'll just share one of the experiences about the Sturgis trip along the same lines is we left Colorado Springs and we were going to stay in Deadwood or Spearfish that night. And we actually pulled off the middle of the road just to use the bathroom. And it was like 12:30 at night. And there's 0 lights anywhere. There's no light glow coming from any city anywhere nearby. And all the bike lights just kind of went off and everything. And you kind of look up and you could see the whole Milky Way. I mean, things you can't see locally here in Pensacola. You see maybe you think maybe it's 1,000 stars. You see hundreds of thousands of stars when you're out someplace that dark. It's a surreal experience just being with all the sunsets and everything on those kind of long bike trips.
Yeah, it's something that you just really don't experience if you're zipping by in in the family van, caravan, or, just, flying places. Just going on your motorcycle is just a different experience. It's kind of like I tell people, whenever they're about to buy a house in a new neighborhood, go walk around the neighborhood on foot and walk around and get the experience, because you're going to have different smells, different views, different sounds as you're walking around the neighborhood. And it's kind of the same thing on a motorcycle. If you really want to get to see what an area is like, get out of your car, get on your bike, and you're going to feel the temperature change. You're going to smell the smells of the grass or the trees or whatever happens to be around there. And you're going to be able to see things that you just ordinarily don't see. And that's one of the things that's really, attractive about motorcycle riding to me, is that you're plugged into nature as much as you can be on a motorized vehicle.
That's correct. And it's funny you bring that up about nature, because a lot of people ask me what happens whenever it's raining. I'm like, we ride. And, we've been on trips where it is poured on us for 10 out of 11 days. And we've been on trips where it poured on me for the last 15 minutes coming home. And, it is hottest of all hots, especially when you're going out in the Midwest and everything, 110 degrees, 115 degrees. And then, you have up in the mountains where sometimes you're getting poured on every single day. And you just kind of embrace the suck. And when you get back from it, you're like, man, those are some great memories. They just add to the memories of it. No matter how bad the memory is, it just adds to the memory of it.
Yeah, there's something about having events like that or undertakings like that that are a bit of a challenge. And especially if you're doing it with a group of friends, it really makes for a bonding experience. But I do have some questions, though, because, a lot of people don't have an opportunity to ride in extreme heat like that. I know that we've got some hot days down here in July and August, but when you're out in the Midwest and you're really in those high temperatures, do you have any tips or suggestions for people that you've learned from personal experience?
First thing and foremost is you got to have a positive mental attitude. So if you look at the glass half full, you're going to have a better experience than looking at it half empty. Next thing is, it's like driving into a hairdryer pretty much. It's not fun. But the biggest thing on any of my motorcycle rides, I usually have a container full of water.
Right.
And anytime there's a gas stop, I fill it up with water, and it's one of those like insulated containers with ice, so it holds ice pretty much a good bit of time. And I just drink water the whole time I'm riding, because one thing I have found is, you can probably attest yourself, is you get dehydrated whenever you ride. It's just that wind against you kind of takes more out of you, takes a little bit more energy, the sun beat down on you. Stay hydrated is probably the biggest number one tip I can give to anybody riding, no matter where they are.
Any equipment suggestions, like anything to do with your tires or your motor or any of your setup when you're actually riding in temperatures that are, in excess of 105, 110 degrees?
I would say, when you're coming like from a temperature here, let's just say it's in the 90s, and you get up there to 117s, then you're on the bike traveling. So it's not like you can do a whole lot of different setups and all that kind of stuff. Bikes are meant to kind of make that adjustment and everything. I would say as long as you're moving in the hotter temperatures, your bike's going to stay cooler in general. One thing I would do is I would just go through and check my oil and my transmission fluid at every gas station, just to say, hey, we're going to take a 20, 30-minute break anyway. Let me just do some of these things just to make sure everything's topped off, everything's good. And that's really about all you can do. Other than that, the main basic equipment you want on there is, your riding boots, or some type of protective clothing, or boot attire. Then you have your jeans, and then we should probably be wearing jackets, but if it's that hot, I wear a short sleeve shirt and kind of embrace it. And I take that risk, obviously, of getting scraped up if I go down. But to me, it's so hot, I just kind of plow through it with a t-shirt on, and then obviously I have my hat and sunglasses on. So
yeah, and so before we got recording today, we talked about a couple things that we might chat about, and one of them was just motorcycle safety and some accident experiences that you've had. And fortunately, you're still riding. I know that you've maybe had a couple scrapes or accidents in the past, and one of the things that we are very much a proponent of is motorcycle safety and how to survive as a motorcycle rider. Things, tips, tricks, hints, that you have from your experience as a rider. You mind telling us a little bit about some of the near misses, scrapes, or accidents that you may have had, and any suggestions to our listeners out there?
Yeah, not a problem. So, the first few accidents I had, they weren't really too bad, because it was on the same trip, and I was on a dirt bike, and I was, riding in I say unfamiliar terrain. I was used to riding a lot of grass, heavy soil type thing, and I was in a lot of soft sand. And so riding style is completely different in soft sand than it is in like a kind of grassy type of environment. And so knowing that, I went into it with like, hey, I'm putting all my safety gear on, even my chest protector, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And luckily, I fell a lot in soft sand, so it wasn't that bad. And so I maybe had a bruised hand here or there. That was pretty much about it. The first major accident I was in was probably this past June. And ironically, I was with a group of my riding buddies on a Thursday night, and I hate to say it, but just, somebody thought we were merging, but we were turning in, and he wasn't paying attention to me and just hit me from behind. So I was doing about 10 miles an hour to turn in, and he kind of hit me from behind doing about 45, 50, and it kind of sent me into a ditch and everything. And luckily I was prepared. I had jeans on, I had boots on, I had a long sleeve shirt type thing on, and it's a little rainy outside. It's actually a rain jacket on as well. Then I had my helmet and glasses and everything like that. And when an accident happens, you don't really see it coming sometimes. I mean, especially when it comes up from behind you. You may not know what happened, but you have to deal with what's happening at first. And when you get hit from behind, it throws you off the handlebars and you're trying to reach up. And when you're heading towards a ditch, lucky it's not oncoming traffic, but luckily I was able to have my mindset there to say, hey, I need to ditch this bike as soon as I can to get off of here. And as soon as I ditched it off, the bike hit a stop sign, took it out, ended up 5 feet down in the ditch and everything. And I kind of ended up on the ground. I'm like, what the heck just happened? I mean, I wasn't really scared the whole time. It was just kind of like, what happened here? But, luckily I had the helmet on, all that kind of stuff to help protect me, because I kind of hit the pavement, slid into the grass a little bit. The guy who hit me, he did not have a helmet on, and he kind of suffered a little bit more. He ended up in the hospital for a couple of days. So, but, live and learn, what I mean? It's one of those things where you can't expect it, but be as prepared as you can for when something does happen. And then understand, like I said before, if it's hot out and you just go with a T-shirt on, you take that risk of getting more injured.
You're going to get scraped. You're going to get some road rash.
Right.
That's for sure.
Yep.
Well, man, thank you for sharing all that. And you've got a really cool, motorcycle story, and everybody has such an individually, personal story of how they got into motorcycles and motorcycle riding and what it means to them. Just to wrap up this part of our conversation, what does motorcycle riding mean to you?
Really, it's just kind of like you said, it's almost like hunting, but you're moving. You're kind of one with nature. You experience things on the back of a motorcycle you just can't experience in a car. And there's a little bit of a freedom there. It's not, a lot of people say it's like flying, and sometimes it is like flying, but it's just, you're your own individual and your own thoughts. And, you can start solving all the world's problems on a 3-hour motorcycle ride, even with your group of buddies, because it's not like you could talk to them, but you solve all the world problems right there. It's like, man, if the world would just kind of do this right here and everybody would get along, it's just, it's nice being in that peaceful kind of meditation type world.
That's exactly what I've said many, many times before. It's like a meditation for me.
Yes.
When I'm out there, it's in a way, it's really a pretty deep meditation. There are almost 9 million motorcycles registered in the United States, and there are almost 5,000 motorcycle fatalities a year. That's almost 14 a day. Motorists don't do a good job looking out for motorcycles, and neither do insurance companies. Hi, I'm Chris Klotz, and as a writer and an attorney, I know that insurance companies treat motorcycle cases differently. If you've been injured in a motorcycle accident, bring your case to me to review. Let me take my riding experience and my knowledge of how to deal with insurance companies to get you the compensation that you deserve. The call and the advice during the call are free. Stevenson Klotz Injury Lawyers, bring it. I want to talk about Sertoma, and I want to talk about HogFest, because
sounds great.
Sertoma is such a wonderful, worldwide organization. I'd like to talk a little bit about that, and then specifically talk a little about the Sertoma HogFest fundraiser every year. But, Sertoma's got a really, really interesting history. I'm not a Sertoma member, but I have done some research, and just through the years of our partnership with Sertoma, have come to learn and admire what you guys do. Tell us a little bit about what Sertoma is.
So Sertoma is obviously short for Service to Mankind, and I believe it's one of the oldest service organizations in the nation, if I remember right. I think it's founded in 1912, and basically it's a way to help out with community involvement. The main focus with Sertoma is helping people who have speech and hearing type issues. So we do a lot of things. We're trying to get funding for hearing aids and stuff like that. Locally, our Northeast Pensacola Sertoma chapter, we do a lot of other local charities as well. Obviously HogFest benefits, two big charities, Ready Kids and Pathways for Change. We also do Dragon Boat in the fall, and that has its other list of sponsors that it helps out.
Dragon
like
Boat's a ton of fun.
It's a great time. It really is, in Gulf Coast Kids House, and I think it was a School Board Foundation. There's like 2 or 3 charities that benefit from that. And there's obviously money from those events that goes into our local sponsorship fund that we kind of give out throughout the year as well. So we have speakers come in on Thursday to our meetings and kind of talk to us and tell us kind of what their organization is about. And then we kind of go and say, okay, we want to give them some money and not some money, and kind of spread out the funds accordingly. So, and I think last year, one of our regional people for Sertoma came in, and they told us that I think we're the number one contributor to local charities last year. So that's kind of a great feeling, thinking just this little club in Pensacola contributes so much more than any other Sertoma club in the nation. So
yeah, and when I was doing a little bit of research on it, there seemed to be around 500 U.S. and Canadian, Sertoma clubs, and it seems
that sounds correct. Yeah,
the local Pensacola, chapter is one of the heavy hitters as far as fundraising's concerned. So, man, I really appreciate what you guys do, and just one other shout out, something that as I was doing my research for our meeting or for our podcast today, I found that actually y'all have a partnership with Escambia County where y'all helped fund and build one of the buildings that's near over by Holm Elementary and Workman and Washington High School, where they do audiology tests for students. Am I correct on that?
I believe you are correct. I think that happened before my time with Sertoma, but I have heard stories about that, and I believe that is a correct statement.
Yeah, that was back, I think I could tell that was around 2010 or so, but partnerships like that and just helping young people with those issues and, being a private resource for helping with issues that may not be on everybody's radar is such an admirable thing. But let's talk about HogFest. HogFest 2024 is going to happen in April of 2024. We had HogFest 2023, which we helped as a sponsor this year. It was so much fun. Yeah, tell us about what HogFest is and how that came to be and how people can get plugged into that.
All right. So HogFest is basically one of our biggest charity fundraising events of the year. Right now, we're going into our 22nd year, which will be April 27th, 2024. And HogFest is basically it's a fundraising event, but it's not just a fundraising event. We're there to make sure everybody has a great time. It's like we try to treat it like a party atmosphere. And so we have free food for people. We have free drinks for people. We have silent auctions. We have live auctions. We have live bands that are playing. And so we're there to gauge everybody, and try and give something to everybody to have a good time while they're there. It is a ticket sold event. So in order to get in, you got to have tickets to get in. There's two types of tickets. There's what we call a party ticket, and that just kind of gets you in the door, gets you into the experience. But our main ticket sales we focus on, they're the $100 ticket sales. That gets you in a drawing to win a brand new Harley Davidson motorcycle, which who doesn't want a motorcycle?
Woohoo, man. That's awesome.
I know. Who doesn't want a motorcycle? But there are a few who don't want motorcycles. And so if they don't want the motorcycle, then we give them an option to take $10,000 instead. And so it's a drawdown type event. So the party kicks off about 6:30, about 7 o'clock. We start, drawing down the event, and there's 1 in 600 chances to win. We only sell 600 tickets. So they start taking one number off the board at a time. And if you're that last number standing, that's great. You're the winner at that point in time. When we get down to like the last 5 or so, we start saying, hey, do y'all want to split the cash, or do you want to take the motorcycle,
right,
or keep going on? And that's always fun because everybody's got a different opinion, but They all have to be unanimous. If one person says, nope, I want to keep going, we keep drawing to the end.
Yeah, I've seen some horse trading up there near the end of the evening when you get down to the last few people.
Yes, they start saying, hey, how about this right here? But we also have like a 50-50 raffle that's going on. So even if you don't get a $100 ticket and a part of that drawdown, you get a chance to win some money to 50-50. We sell raffle tickets for the lottery board as well. So it's a whole bunch of lottery tickets, scratch off lottery tickets. So you know how it is. You don't know what you're going to win, but you're probably going to win at least $5,
Yep. And, for the silent auction and for the live auction, I've seen some really good, I guess they're not prizes, but things to buy like trips and condo usage. And I think there was a sales for a plane ride. Somebody offered to take somebody up in a plane ride. And I mean, just some really cool things to bid on and raise money for. And what do you think you guys raised last year about?
So, let me see here. I could tell you right now, overall gross, I think we had set almost a record with 105,000. But then we get into the expenses. And one thing about HogFest that a lot of people don't realize is we haven't raised the ticket price at all. And inflation's been skyrocketing on us big time. And so we are trying to find ways to keep that ticket price at $100 so we don't go any higher, to benefit everybody, to say, hey, we know everybody's hurting. We want to keep that the same price. So we're trying to find ways to cut price, make it a better experience. And so our net, I think, was around the 50, 55 range.
Yeah.
And then, that gets split up, a third of it goes to us for our local sponsorships and everything. And then the rest of it gets split up between Ready Kids and Pathways for Change at that point in time. So
2 fantastic and very worthy organizations. And of course, you can count us to be there to help sponsor next year too, because we love being associated with you guys because of the good work that you do. Also, motorcycle safety is one of our interests here at the firm, with me being a rider and, wanting to have a safer riding community out there, because regrettably, I get to see a lot of the accidents that happen around here because people will reach out to us, and a lot of it just has to do with motorcycle awareness, usually for non-riders, usually for people in cars. Not always, but mostly people in cars who are just not aware. Like you said, you prefer to ride in a group because you have more visibility now. There's something to that. So
correct. I agree 100%. And we appreciate you guys being a part of it. We look forward to you guys every time. Y'all bring a booth, and everybody likes playing the cornhole with y'all and everything. And, y'all add value to that party as well, other than just, being there and hanging out with us. So we appreciate y'all's support over the years and everything.
Yeah, well, it's a great collaboration. We're grateful for you guys too. Well, Mike, anything else you want to throw out there about motorcycle riding, or HogFest or Sertoma, or anything else that we might not have gotten a chance to talk about, because we're getting kind of close to our time. This has gone by super fast.
Yeah, I thought we're still about 10-minute mark.
No,
so I would say last thing is, for motorcycle safety, it's never underestimate the value of wearing your helmet and wearing safety gear. That's all there is to it. It's you will at least have a better chance of coming out alive if you don't have your gear on. You'll be less injured and all that stuff. If you don't have it on, you're obviously gonna feel the pain a little bit more. So then as far as like HogFest goes, anyone who wants tickets, they just need to reach out to the local Northeast Pensacola Sertoma chapter. They can look us up on Facebook. We're at Northeast Pensacola Sertoma on Facebook. If they go to the internet, we are www.northeastsertoma.com. And then once you get on there, you can find out a way to email us, but there's a HogFest link on there in addition to a Dragon Boat link as well. But that HogFest link, that will get you hooked up to give you all the latest and greatest information on HogFest. Right on. Well, Mike Rhodes, thank you so much, sir, for coming and visiting with us today. Grateful for having you on board. I'll be talking to you soon about HogFest, and I hope you have a great weekend. Get out there and have a chance to ride. It's getting a little bit cooler out there now, so getting a little bit more comfortable to be out there. Well, I appreciate it, Chris. And, this weekend I'm probably going to switch gears a little bit because I'm one of those guys who have too much hobbies. So I probably won't be on the bike behind me because it's going to be raining. So I'll probably be on my side-by-side. I'll get muddy a little bit, Right on. Just kind of enjoying something. Just being outdoors is the key more than anything. Right on, man. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, Mike. All right. Thanks, Chris. You take it easy. Have a good day. Take care. You too. All right. Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us on Motorcycle Hang Time with Chris Klotz. Go to StevensonKlotz.com to get more information about motorcycle safety issues and motorcycle law. Please leave us a rating and a review whenever you listen to your podcast. We invite you to spend time with us on our next episode.